You know how your phone's assistant, or the GPS in your car, or even an audiobook can speak so clearly these days? Well, ever wonder how that happens? A big part of the answer is this really cool piece of tech called Amazon Polly. It's an AI that's basically giving a voice to our digital world, turning plain text into speech that sounds incredibly real.
Yeah, that voice you're hearing? It's not some clunky robot from an old sci-fi movie anymore. This is some seriously sophisticated text-to-speech technology. You can think of it as the engine that takes silent words on a screen and turns them into a voice we can actually listen to and understand. And today, we're going to pop the hood and see exactly how that engine works.
So, here's what we've got on tap. First, we'll cover the basic tech. Then, we'll look at the two main ways it generates speech. After that, we'll get into how you can customize the voice, and I'll walk you through a quick demo. And finally, we'll talk about the big picture, why this technology is such a game changer.
Okay, let's dive right in. First things first, what is Amazon Polly, really? And what's the magic behind it that makes it all work?
So at its heart, Amazon Polly is a really powerful AI service. The key phrase here is deep learning. What that means is it's not just reading words one by one. No, it's actually learning the rhythm, the intonation, all the little patterns of real human speech to create a voice from scratch. So yeah, you can totally forget those robotic voices from the 90s. This is the super advanced engine that powers all those smooth, natural-sounding voices we're so used to hearing now.
All right, so we know what it is, but now the question is, how does it actually do its thing? Well, there are basically two main ways you can use it. One is for getting speech back instantly, and the other is for processing huge amounts of text that you're going to use later.
First up, you've got real-time mode. This is for all those on-the-fly moments where you need speech right now. A perfect example is a news app that reads you the latest headlines the second they're published. Then, on the other hand, you have batch mode. Think of this as the heavy lifter. It's for the massive jobs, like turning an entire book into an audiobook. You just feed it a giant chunk of text, it crunches through it, and spits out the audio file for you to use whenever you want.
Okay, but this is where it gets really cool, in my opinion. We're talking about control. See, you're not just stuck with one generic, out-of-the-box voice. You can actually shape and tailor the speech to sound exactly how you want it to. Let's start with the basics. First, you can choose from a whole bunch of different languages. Then, you can pick a voice. You've got masculine and feminine options, and you can even choose the tone. Neural voices are the really advanced ones that sound super natural. But you also have standard voices, which have that more classic, kind of robotic sound, just in case that's the vibe you're going for.
Now, if you want to get really precise with it, there's a tool called SSML. That stands for Speech Synthesis Markup Language. The best way to think about it is, it's like you're a director, and you're leaving little notes right in the script for your AI actor. You're telling it exactly how to say each and every line.
And here's a perfect example of how simple it can be. You see that little tag that says break time? That's SSML right there. All it's doing is telling Polly, hey, take a 1-second pause right here. It's such a tiny little command, but it has a huge effect on the final result, making the speech sound way less robotic and a lot more natural.
And believe me, adding pauses is just scratching the surface. With SSML, you can control pretty much everything. You can tweak the pitch, change the speaking rate, adjust the volume, and even tell it to put special emphasis on certain words. It's basically a complete toolkit for dialing in the perfect vocal performance. Now, here's a super important point. Please don't feel like you need to memorize all these different tag names. That's not the goal. The main thing is just to know that you have this level of control. Just being aware that you can tweak all these little details is the most powerful part. Okay, so beyond SSML, there's another really handy tool called lexicons. The easiest way to think of a lexicon is, well, it's like your own personal, custom-made dictionary for pronunciation. It's perfect for teaching Polly how to say things that it might not know, like specific industry jargon, unique brand names, or tricky acronyms. Let me give you a classic example. Let's say you want the acronym AWS to actually be read out as its full name, Amazon Web Services. You can do that. Or, like we see here, you can do the exact opposite. You can tell Polly that every single time it sees the phrase Amazon Web Services, it should just say the letters AWS instead. The point is you have total control over how things are pronounced.
All right, that's enough talk in theory for now. How about we actually see this thing in action? Let's walk through a really quick demo so you can see how all these different pieces fit together.
Okay, so here's the game plan for this little demo. First, we're going to pick the neural voice type, for that really natural sound. Then, we're going to switch the language over to Arabic. From there, we'll select a specific voice called Hala. We'll feed it some text that has one of those SSML break tags we just talked about, and then it's time to hit listen and see what happens.
And the result, it was pretty incredible. The sound quality was just fantastic. That little SSML pause we put in there worked perfectly. But here's the part that really blew me away. Even when the voice was saying words in English, it kept that distinct Arabic accent from the voice we selected. So cool.
Of course, it's not always 100% perfect. There was a funny little side note from the person who ran this test. They said that while everything else was amazing, the AI voice absolutely butchered their name, which is, a pretty hilarious reminder that sometimes you still need that human touch. And hey, it's also the perfect reason to use a lexicon.
So we've seen that Polly is a really cool and powerful tool, no doubt about that. But let's zoom out for a second. Let's look past the tech itself and think about the bigger picture. Why does any of this actually matter? Well, it really comes down to three huge things. First, there's accessibility. This tech opens up the entire digital world for people with visual impairments, and it lets the rest of us listen to content when we're driving or working out. Second is engagement. Let's face it, a natural-sounding voice just makes apps and experiences feel way more personal and immersive. And finally, there's efficiency. Think about it. This automates what used to be a super expensive and time-consuming process of hiring voice actors for everything from e-learning courses to airport announcements.
And when you put all that together, it leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. We've managed to build machines that can speak our language with real nuance and personality. We can control almost every aspect of their voice. The technical challenges are basically melting away. So the big question isn't about technology anymore. It's about creativity. Now that they can talk, what are we going to talk about with them next?